A deep change in the way that we live requires a deep change in the way that we think. I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently. Welcome to Differently. I love to bring guests on who are doing life differently. And Tina, I want to welcome you to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, yes, I'm so excited to be here.
We were
Thanks.
introduced by a mutual friend, Eileen. So shout out Eileen. And it has been on my heart. I think just in these unprecedented times that it's more important than ever to be gathering together so that we as leaders, we don't feel alone, that we have sounding boards and people that have our back because we're all navigating things we've never navigated before. And Tina is all about bringing women together. And I've had the honor of attending her event now a couple of times. And she's bringing together leaders and business owners and moms and daughters and professionals. And she's had a front row seat to what happens when women gather in honesty, encouragement, and a willingness to grow. And so I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Tina. And I'd love for you to just give people a sense of you and what season you're in. And yes, like that.
Well, obviously we are here in Arizona and it is nice and toasty. So I
Yes.
question this every year that I live here. Why am I living in Arizona? But then, a couple
And
months
then we
by,
forget.
yeah, and it's the best weather ever. And we go, oh, thank goodness we live here, right?
So
Yes.
true.
So I created, and I basically, for many years, have attended really incredibly inspiring events for women. Whether it's different galas or it is fundraising events or it is just these really inspirational women that I have had the, opportunity to meet and to listen to. And over those years, I just kind of took little tidbits from each of these things that I had witnessed and how they made me feel and why I yearned or wanted to go to more. It's like I was like a sponge. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was brilliant. Like, she is so incredible. She is just the most amazing person. Like, I feel inspired. I feel like I want to go and I want to do this. I want to do that. So it just was this
Mm.
go getter driven mentality and just realizing that there were people in this world who really were making a difference, who really were creating impact, that they had gone through these incredible struggles and they had overcome it. So this past year, I have become closer and closer to a true empty nester. I have a 20-year-old son who is now in Georgia, and I have a 16-year-old daughter who still lives at home, but she's quite independent and very busy with sports. So I told myself, okay, I need to find something. I need to find something more full time to plug into, to give back, to meet other people that are like minded, excited about life, wanting to make change, wanting the world to be better, wanting to make differences. And I looked and looked and looked and looked, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot find it. Like I can find it, once a year, twice a year, regionally, if I have to travel to another, state or across to the East Coast or something. But I could not find what I was looking for here. So then I was like, you know what? I've been doing real estate for 20 years. I know a ton of people. Like I've been to so many of these events. I mean, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I'm a big, Robert Kiyosaki fan. It's not just women that have inspired me, but obviously there are some amazing, brilliant women too that have inspired me. But I just was like, I got to create something that I want to plug into, that I want to meet more people like this. And I believe they're like, they want this too. So I just decided to launch a basically like a women's mastermind. We started with a Facebook group, and I wanted women to just be able to gather like a safe space where women who are interested in getting more information, educating themselves, becoming more empowered, being able to reinvent themselves. Maybe they're going through certain struggles. Maybe they've overcome some struggles and they can help other women in the group. But I just wanted a place to connect with like-minded, positive women. And it didn't mean that you had to be a business owner or you have to be a realtor or you have to be, some kind of industry professional. I feel like over the years, I've met incredible people from all walks of life. So that's how Elevate was launched.
I love that so much. And I think that what you have done, I mean, I live in the West Side, so Tina's event is like an hour away, a good hour away for me. But I have been in Arizona for so long and I have struggled just like you have to find great events. And so I drive an hour to go to Tina's event because it's so well curated and put together and thoughtful. And I'm curious because one of the things I noticed right away is that all the ages in the room, and that was so refreshing to me. So I'd love for you to share a little bit, like how did that happen?
Yeah, yeah. So I hope and think that maybe it had started with my 16-year-old daughter. So when I even launched this, I was like, you know what? These teens, like I would go to all her events. I'm a teen mom. I'm very much involved in her wrestling program, and I know all the girls there, and I would see them. They would also struggle. They're affected by social media. They're affected by, the rigorous school schedule. They're affected by, just being a teen and going through, like puberty and, trying to learn who they are and become drivers and become young adults. But they're constantly just, kind of forced or pushed or pressured all about school, all about school, all about school,
Mm,
academics, academics, And I feel like children in general, all young adults in general, whether it's teen, high school or college, they just are not taught how to survive in life, So as parents, we've always taught our kids, I want them to obviously be healthy. That's like in my number one priority. So we're very big on, eating right, exercising, taking care of our bodies. And then I also was very big on survival. Like I didn't have the greatest of growing up. I was not spoon fed. We were not financially secure at all. So I really became a survivor very young. I became an adult very young and had to learn to survive. So survival skills is like in my blood. And I just was like, we got to make sure our kids can survive this world, like it can be a very harsh place. And yeah, they can get great grades and they can be cute and they can have fun and we could spoil them. But if they can't survive, they don't know how to deal with people. They don't know how to interact. They don't know how to, handshake and look people in the eyes and speak clearly and articulate their words.
mm,
Be able to negotiate, be able to buy something, be able to just even place an order at a restaurant. These are a lot of the things that I feel like people kind of look past. They're so focused on, I just want my kids to get into college. I just want my kids to have good grades. Well, college isn't everything. And I'm not saying it's not important by any means, but I also feel like there's so much more that you need in life beyond college.
mm.
So decided to bring my daughter and I was just like, hey, do you want to do this? And she was right away, she's like, wow, mom, this sounds so cool. Yeah, absolutely. And like from the start, she has just been amazing, big supporter. She's helped me with the events and she wants to help with the swag bag. She wants to help with the design even. She loves Canva. So, and she's very creative. And I was just like, you know what? I think more and more women that attend our event should encourage young adults, should. So I started just saying it at a lot of our beginning events like, look, I bring my 16-year-old daughter, I'm not saying this is something for kids or for young, anyone who can't handle the matureness of this kind of
Conversation.
mastermind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's many young adults that are incredibly mature and they need this too. They need to see that women have gone through the most unbelievable circumstances and overcame them. They need to
Mm,
see that women of all ages struggle or have challenges or have these life changes that they're also going through, or they are incredibly excited at say 60 years old to start a new business. I wanted her to be
mm,
around people like this that would give her different ideas and different perspectives other than just what we could give her at home. So
mm.
hopefully, I mean, I feel like that might have been part of the stem of it. And I've just seen what's been so incredible is many of these women, they'll reach out to me after the event or even before the event. And they're like, hey, is it okay if I bring 4 people to the event? I want to bring my girlfriends from Bunko or from, my church group or my ward or whatever it is. And you just see these kind of circles. They're like, they want to bring more, they want to gather, and that
Mm.
has been so rewarding. So I've just basically said, yeah, we encourage all women who want to learn and be inspired, thrive, be empowered to come to this event.
I think it's so beautiful. And I feel like it's our responsibility as women to pass on knowledge and wisdom to the younger generations. And what a more beautiful way to do that. I mean, I was really struck the first time I came to your event, by the depth of conversation that you create in the room. I mean, that's unusual, I feel like. I mean, it's real, honest conversation and a lot of wisdom that is getting shared in the room, and people are being very vulnerable. And it was really, really refreshing. Um, I remember sitting with my husband, like watching something on TV, like a speaker or something. This was before COVID, and our boys were young, and he said like the greatest like skill that our children are going to need in the future is resiliency. And I
Mm-hmm.
just, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that just feels so very true. And boy, is that ever true. And that's kind of what you're talking about, right? It goes beyond all the other uh check, like boxes you need to check, of like going to school and graduating and getting a job and all those things. It's the underlying foundation that has our kids be able to walk through this life and with
Exactly.
strength and a solid foundation. That's so beautiful.
For sure.
Um, what has surprised you the most in hosting these events? Like, has anything, like what has stood out to you or has been unexpected or surprising to you?
Well, funny you say this. I don't think you were at this event, but we did a women's self defense with an incredible, like internationally renowned guest speaker. His name's Mike Hayashi, and he's like a black belt, and he like has specialized and taught for, I want to say, like over 30 years, self defense for FBI, CIA, like all levels, corporate America. And he was so wonderful to come and teach us. But anyway, so during this event, here we are. It's a participation event. This one, we're learning like these key skills in women's survival, and these uncomfortable situations that you very well could be in at any given moment, and how to react. What to do in these circumstances. So it's so funny. We're doing it right, and we're going around the room, and he's got this kind of like big dummy guy, that you're supposed to like, you're dodging, right? He's pretending to like, come at you, right? And like it's so funny. Like I didn't block, I didn't like move fast enough, and he hits me with the black, like the big thing, and I was just like, oh, like you hit me. But I mean, I wasn't hurt, but it was just so like at in the moment, and then the whole room is just laughing, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just got hit by my own guest speaker, you know. So, and what's great is I actually had one of our professional videographers like filming this particular one because we were doing
Yeah.
some social media and marketing and stuff. And he caught it on tape. So he catches it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what are the odds? And my daughter's there. Like, this is a full room. So this is a lot of, I mean, there's women in here who are, one had just sold her business for $30 million. There's stay-at-home moms in here. There's these women that, I incredibly admire. And then here I am, just so humble. So yeah, like, he just hit me. But I was the only one to hit. I was not hurt, but it was just really fun. And that's just another piece of this, that you just don't know what you're going to get at each event.
Mhm.
Each guest speaker brings um, their own originality, their own talents, their own strengths and inspiration, and they educate. And we do make every one of our events purposely interactive because no one wants to just be lectured to. That was a big thing when I started this. Is I've been to those kinds of events where you just sit there and all they do is talk, and you're zoning out. You're on your phone, you're checking emails, you're like, you don't even know what the last 30 minutes they said. But when you have to interact and you have to actually, respond, and your critical thinking, and they're getting you to actually like dig deep and dive into you pay attention to you, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's also been another part of the success of Elevate.
I love that. Leadership. I know I host a mastermind, a very different kind of mastermind than you do, and it's virtual. But one of the things when I first started it was we talked about like as leaders, like what are the greatest challenges? And the greatest challenge that showed up was that like running your own business is lonely. Leadership can be lonely. And so I'd love for you to speak to like, have you experienced that? And do you see that in the room, or do you see that this group is providing something around that for people who do feel lonely in leadership?
So yes on both. And this, a lot of this started. I've been in real estate for 20 years. I'm a licensed realtor in Arizona. As I was, kind of going through this industry and working with all different kinds of people, from high end, multi-million dollar, properties, to lower end, people that had these incredible investment portfolios. What I would find that would surprise me the most, like I used to like dream of, wow, like someday I'll have that, or someday I will have my own home. I will have a family. I'll have the family dog. I'll be the teen mom. I'll be whatever it is. Even just baking cookies for my kids when they come home. These are all dreams I had, right? But as I met these really, really incredible people that you think, like from the outside, you'll look at somebody and you are like, wow, I think they have everything. Like they've just got it together. Like they have the perfect life, right? Well, as a realtor, you get privy to a lot of private information.
Mm.
These same people were, like you said, very lonely at the top. They didn't trust people. It was very hard for them to open up to people. It was difficult for them to even change, which is interesting to me because I mean, I grew up, I had to always change given my circumstances in life. I didn't have a choice. It was just, it became natural to me. Okay. Oh, we're moving. Oh, we're moving. Oh, we're moving. We're doing this. We're doing that. It wasn't something where I even had any say so in it, but I just rolled with it and just, had to adapt, had to evolve, had to survive. So when I would look at these incredibly powerful, this is people that owned multiple businesses, multiple properties, and I would just see them where they sometimes would almost crumble or just clam up or be very, very uncomfortable with the outside world, as if they were very lonely or had like barely any friends or anyone they could trust, even family, which was very interesting to me. Um, and I do feel like with our Elevate Women's Mastermind, we have seen that quite a bit. We've seen where women, especially women, because I feel like we have to take on the world, whether we admit it or not, we do. We're up late at night, we're up early in the morning, we're constantly like, we might be the ones paying the bills, and we're also taking the kids to school and driving, getting all the groceries, we're organizing the pantry, we're writing up a business plan, we might have a full-time business occupying 60, 70 hours a week, but we're also doing all that other stuff. And we're the ones who monitor everybody's health. And we're the ones who are making sure everyone goes to their dentist appointment. So at the end of the day, these women that do say take it all on, or even, any human that takes it all on, I think oftentimes they just do need an outlet. They need a safe space. And, I think of it kind of like when you go to like, say, a hairdresser or a nail person, or, say your eyelash lady or something. Like, do you ever realize like you just share the weirdest stuff with them because
I
it's
know. I think about that all the
easy?
time, Tina, when I'm getting
Yeah.
my hair cut or
Right.
done.
You're like,
Yes,
I
like
don't know
what
why
they
I just
hear.
shared my whole day with this person, that I see once every, 4 months or whatever, but they feel safe. So I do feel like our women's mastermind has created, and I've said this constantly too, is like we are a safe space. And I want it to feel that way where, let's not hold those feelings in. Let's not bottle them up. And I'll look everyone in the eye, and I literally go through the room and I'm looking everybody in the eye seriously and genuinely saying, hey, if I'm feeling this way, I cannot be alone. I know there are others like me that are going through this empty nest syndrome. I know there are others who may want more out of life. There are others who might be a little uncertain with things that are going on in the world, or, are the quality of our foods, things like this. And we'll talk about them. And as I open up, they will open up. And now I'm seeing that many of them just naturally open up because we've created this space where they know it's safe.
Mm. And you do that so well. You really, really do. I I also, what I see about your events, and I think, well, actually, before we go there, I remember growing up, like, I never saw my mom like really
Mm-hmm.
navigate hard feelings or really even break down. Like, I think I saw my mom really only cry like one time when she lost her mom.
Uh-huh.
And so when I got to be a young adult and had all these feelings I'm navigating and uncertainty and like confusion, and I thought something was wrong with me. Like, why? Because she'd been my model my whole life. And so, and like you're saying, I think we were talking about this before we hit record, but just being having an empty nest and like not really anticipating this or being prepared for this. It was like it just kind of came.
Right.
But I think those conversations are so important to anticipate and put out in the room to see how I think we find our own story in listening to other people's story, and we find our own way in listening to other people who have found their way, and it's so incredibly powerful in that room to just listen, like you said, to people from all walks of life who are walking through similar things. I used to, years ago, I led like 2-hour retreats where women could come and experience the writing and the expression on paper and then the sharing out loud. And it was so amazing because women would come in the room and they look like they have the weight of the world, like you're saying, on their shoulders. And after some writing and expressing themselves and sharing out loud in the room and realizing that they're not alone, they would walk out of that room and they would physically look different, like
Yeah.
lighter,
Yeah.
happier, more relaxed. And I'm curious, like, what have you seen in the room since you've been hosting these?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we did an acronym for Elevate Women's Mastermind. And so Elevate stands for Empowered Ladies Elevating Their Vision, Assets, Talent, and Energy. And we
Mm,
came up with that specifically because that's what we wanted them to receive out of this. And what's been so incredible is I will have so many women that have reached out to me afterward. And I agree with you, as they're even at the end of the event, we do this kind of traditional group photo against the big flower wall, and we've all got our swag bags and we're super excited, and it's just this really fun feel good moment. And that was another thing that we wanted with this event. Is I loved events where I went to where they just gave and there was zero expectation. Like, they didn't
mm,
bombard me with a bunch of phone calls. They didn't, I'm not being sold by 20 different vendors at that event. And, and everybody has my name and email address, or I wasn't trying to be sold for some, camp or some, like, I just really loved events where I would go there and I would just listen to this amazing person speak. And they just, like channeled an energy into you. And then at the end of the event, it's just, you just had this warm, fuzzy, feel good moment. And maybe there was a gift, So we do give gifts at every event. That's part of it. I wanted it to just be this warm, fuzzy, and practical thing. It's not junk. It's not stuff that you wouldn't use. It's actually really practical. And I try to make it as practical as possible because I also don't want to get a bunch of stuff that I'm like, what am I going to ever do with it? And it breaks 2 seconds after you get it. I'm not interested in that stuff. So I wanted it to be useful and practical. But yeah, I've had women who've reached out to me and they're just like, wow, Tina, like, I have been looking for this, so many others just like me and you, we couldn't find it. And now they're finding it. And they really, like you said, I didn't even realize you lived in the West Valley. I had no idea you were driving that far to come to it. We have other women who are doing the same exact thing. They're getting babysitters to watch their kids so they can attend it. So the lengths that they're going to plug into just a 2 hour event once a month is so gratifying and so just really, really special to me. It shows me that this is needed. It's needed in our world. At least we started here in Arizona, but I do feel like this is something that just as humans, we need something that's not just fake and phony. And like a lot of social media is just the best. You just get this imperfect version of a world. Whereas in our spaces, it's real. It's like it's real. We do open up about real struggles, real life, real challenges, real happiness even, it's more real.
That's so beautiful. And you provide a beautiful lunch. Like it really was such a gift going there. Like it is. And it's clear how much intention that you have put behind it. We talk a lot on this podcast about living intentionally and doing things with intention and slowing down long enough to be thoughtful. And it's so clear that you've done that on every detail of that event. And that's why you're seeing the fruit and the beauty of, come out of that. And I know you're really just getting started with this, right?
Yeah, this is just starting. So we started in February. We launched it in January. First event was in February, but yeah, I mean, this is so brand new. We've got some really fun ideas from our members, and we are constantly brainstorming. And how can we be better? How can we treat everybody? What are some incredible other speakers that we want to get in the room? To help us become better.
Mm, this is so funny. I'm just realizing that. So I did a podcast episode after I attended your event the first time.
Hmm.
And this is funny, but I came to the first event. I was so excited. And I was like, on the way on the drive there, I was thinking, if this is a great event, like I would be happy to drive this distance like once a month. Like that's a no brainer.
Yeah.
And I got there and I got all up in my head and I totally enjoyed the speaker and the interactions but I got all up in my head and I didn't really connect with anybody that day. And
Hmm.
driving home that day, I was so mad at myself because I'd driven all that way. I didn't like get out of my own comfort zone to meet anybody or make any really good connections. And I literally was even talking. This is how crazy our mind is, right? Like I was literally
Yeah.
even talking myself out of maybe I shouldn't go back and speak at the event, and I'm not going to go back. And I got home, and my husband like saw my face, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I shared it all with him. And when I was sharing it all with him, I realized how incredibly beautiful the event was. The conversation was so powerful and real, and that's the kind of conversations that I like to create. It like was such a gift. I was actually getting ready for something to my own event that I was hosting within the next day or two, and I was just so filled up with like what happens in a room when women get real.
Yeah.
And so it inspired my event, and I'm like, okay, I'm going back and I'm going to because I was told my husband, I'm like, I got an F. I'm giving myself an F on
Oh,
social
that's way too
interaction.
hard on
I
yourself.
know, I know. It was a little dramatic, but I really felt like you failed. And I'm like, but I'm going back and I'm going to get a better grade. And I went back that next month, and that was the month I won the big bag of
Yeah, you
goodies.
were a grand prize winner.
And I
Yeah.
just decided like I'm going to get out of my own head and get in the
Yes.
room and experience it fully. And I did. But, anyways, I thought that was funny because I just remembered as we were talking that I had done a podcast about that it's never too late to go back
Yeah.
and,
No.
and show up a little different. And so funny.
And I love that you did. I mean, I love that story. It's a perfect example of our crazy lives. You did go. You maybe didn't give it your all or take it all in, but then you got in your own head, right? You reached out to somebody you know and trust, your husband, which I often do too. And as you are even explaining it, you're like, what the heck? Why didn't I like embrace this, And I think that happens a lot to us is we just kind of like we're like frozen or we're just not ourselves some days, like we just it's like we need a reset, we need a do-over, right? And
Yeah.
the best thing about this story is that you said, I'm not going to let this get in my way, I'm going to give it a second chance, and look at, I mean, you won the grand prize. I would hope the second time you did connect more and you did talk with more people, because that's also a huge benefit of it is we've had people who have become really incredible friends through this
Mhm.
event. They're meeting people that are just not like all the phony people that might be like in their work world, or they might just be different than their work world or their home life. You know what I mean? This is something else that gives them another outlet.
Well, and I think that's true. Like, even in clients I work with, a lot of people don't have places that they can be in these kinds of conversations,
True.
to be real, to talk about like what we're building and what we want to create in our life and where we're getting in our own way. And so people
Yeah.
don't have places to have those conversations. So your event is definitely that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So as leaders, we're always navigating seasons of change. And I think that's going to be the theme of our event coming up is navigating change. And what are some of the things that have helped you as a leader just navigate the ups and downs of life?
Yes,
What are your
absolutely.
go-tos?
So some of my biggest mantras are like I used to be this person, I would say, and I'm an overachiever. I am a like straight A student, must do perfect, cry if I got a B. That was me, right? And I would just crumble if I couldn't pay my bills in my 20s. Like it just was like so overwhelming to me if I couldn't be the perfect person I wanted to be, right? So I had to just get over it also. I had to just realize that, hey, we live in a very imperfect world. Nothing in life is perfect. Nothing is going to go the way that you want. And you just have to learn to accept it. You have to learn that, you just can't control everything every single day. You just cannot. You can try and you can manage and you can prep and plan. And I'm a huge time blocker and I'm still very type A and I do like things as nice as possible. But I also give myself a whole lot of flexibility now. I give myself a whole lot of credit. I do, realize when I've overcommitted too much or I'm taking on too much, and I will just step away from it. I will take a reset. But some of the mantras that I love are, let's say you're tackling a really huge problem or it's just a really overwhelming situation. This is like the bad stuff. Maybe it's a huge loss in your life. So you've lost somebody very dear to you, or maybe it's financial, maybe it's a divorce or something. But when you're going through those kinds of really hard circumstances, I like to look at stuff as like, okay, one, look at all the things I've already survived. Okay. Wow. Okay. So you go back to all the things that have gotten you to where you are. Two, I always look at, if I can't quite figure out that problem, what's the absolute worst that could go wrong? Like I just look at what's the worst, okay, fine. Let's say, for example, let's say with, our Elevate Women's Mastermind, we're like, what if I had created this event and nobody showed up? Oh,
Mhm.
well, I showed up. I still did it. I created it. You know what I mean? So am I going to never do it again, or am I going to come back to the table and try it all over again? And I did have some of those thoughts in the beginning, like, oh my gosh, this is so new. Like, what if people think this, just don't even want to bother? What if they just don't get it? What if they're too busy? Do we make it free? Do we charge people? And there was all these questions in the beginning, but I was just like, you know what? If I don't just do it, just like Nike, and, it's the action that always creates the reaction.
Mhm.
So if you never get to the action, how can you possibly have any sort of progress? So to me, I'm always going to do it. I'll always risk it. I'll always try it. And I just look at it as like, what's the worst that can happen, and I will survive. I just have this I will survive mentality. Like, I'm not going to let those fears, those conditions, those what ifs, those circumstances get the best of me. Like, they don't own me, they don't control me, and I won't let them.
Mm, that's so powerful. Well, I think that leads right into the next event. And the theme is really around navigating change. So if you are local, or even if you're not local and you want to fly in for the event next Wednesday, I'm
And
sorry, July 29th, 12 to 2 p.m. Tina is hosting her event, and I am so honored to be the speaker that day. And we're going to talk about navigating change and where we do have power inside of walking through change, where we feel like we're powerless, to remind us where we actually do have power. And I love what you said, like collecting evidence for all the other times that you've walked through change or walked through hard things and came out above. I mean, usually when we look back, those are the times that we grew the most, or it was like a real pivot, beautiful turning point. So come join us. And Tina, would you share about the upcoming event?
yes, yes. So it'll be at the Vibe in Chandler, which is just off of Gilbert and Germain. So if you would like to RSVP to it, you're more than welcome to either go to our QR code, which you will have on the podcast, or you could also just text me 602-451-8462. We also have if you're on Eventbrite, we're also on Eventbrite, and you can also find that event. So it's Elevate Women's Mastermind. And then every month we feature a different guest speaker, which is awesome. We do like the variety. So, for example, we've had like wine, women, and hormones. We've had, self-defense for women. We've had AI for women. So we've had this really fun variety of guest speakers that have come to speak with us. And we're very, very excited to hear you, Carla Reeves, and navigate change, which I think is also a perfect time because we're all about to, many of us about to go into fall. And with fall comes more stresses. You've got back to school, you've got all the holidays. For some of you, you might live in cold country and you're about to embrace some big storms and snow and all that good stuff, right? So navigating change will be perfect. It's 12 to 2, and we always do it the last Wednesday of every month at the Vibe in Chandler. And this is also brought to you by another collaborative that I'm part of. It's called One Stop Collaboration. So we put together lots of different events for realtors and industry professionals, but then the Women's Mastermind is like my baby.
I love it. So beautiful. Okay, so we would love for you to join us, and you can, I will definitely include all the links and show notes in the show notes. Is there anything else you have going on that you want to share, Tina?
Yes. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to kind of talk about some of the fun things that we have been discussing and want to do for our November and our December events. And we don't have all the details quite yet, but instead of doing our typical, women's mastermind luncheon, we are going to actually do a women's Friendsgiving for Thanksgiving, which is going to be amazing. It will actually be at a residence. We haven't decided on which one yet, but it'll be a very nice, fun environment. It will also be a free event. And then it will be more or less, all of us basically having a really incredible Thanksgiving dinner or brunch together. Enjoying, cocktails and mocktails, music, just a really, really fun environment. And then in December, we have decided that we're going to do a really fun white elephant gift exchange with all our members. So that'll be very exciting. And we might theme it. So if any of you guys have any incredible ideas for either of those, I would love to hear them. You can follow me at Tina Garcia Realtor on Instagram, but you can also text me. But yeah, I'm interested in anything you guys might want to add to that. And we've been brainstorming a bit. But my thing is life has to be fun. It's
Mm-hmm.
way too complicated, way too
Mm-hmm.
rigorous and hard. And, it's something, we've got all these responsibilities in life, right? And we're constantly juggling, from landscapers, pool people, insurance, like, all these things that we're dealing with, right? On a daily basis. So if you don't add fun or look forward to really fun events and create those environments and plug into those environments, then what's it all about? Like what, I'm a big believer in legacy. Like I want to give back. The more that I have given back in life, the more that I have received. And not financially, I'm not saying like people are giving me money, but I have received the most incredible friends through this philosophy. I have met somebody like you, Carla, who you and I've had some really amazing conversations. So all the different connections and people, like these are my treasures throughout life. So the more and more that I can collect more and more of these wonderful experiences, friendships, relationships, the more that I want to give that same thing back to so many other, people, I should say, not just women, but obviously I'm part of this women's mastermind, but people, because everybody deserves that happiness. We shouldn't, there's so much depression and sadness in our world. And it's crazy to me when I look at some of the statistics I see. There's absolutely no reason for it. It should stem from people's environments. And if you're not in a positive environment, get out. That's my biggest advice. Don't stay in environments that are going to bring you down and not lift you up. Like that is so incredibly important. And hopefully anybody listening recognizes that and recognizes that they're the ones that are going to have to make that decision to get out of those situations. Maybe it's household, maybe it's work, maybe it's, school. I don't know. But if you're in a bad situation, find people that are more going to help you and love on you and really genuinely care.
I love that so much. I hope that you are feeling Tina's heart behind all of this. And if you are feeling alone, like you don't have to do life alone, Tina's hosting free events where you can come and gather and be supported and surrounded by women who are wanting to add fun and joy into their life and build their life and walk through things together. I also host free classes virtually if you're not local that you can come and get in a group of women who are, future focused and moving forward in their lives and want to acquire and learn tools to do that. So we just both invite you to come play, come be a part, come check this out. And we're so excited about next week's event, and we would love, love, love to see you there. Tina, thank you so much for just really sharing. I feel like you opened the door to these events where people can really see in and experience and get a feel for what it would be like in that room. And for doing this in the world, for putting this out in the world. I think it is a gift to people. It's a gift to me. Last question for you. What does differently mean to you?
Differently. So I've always been one, and I love the name of your company. I really do. I've always been someone where I don't want to be like everyone else. I've always been the one who wants to shine. If there's an event going on, I want to be the brightest. I want to be I'm the social butterfly. I will be the first one to raise my hand or jump up on stage or, like I want to be memorable. I want to be valuable. I want to be treasured, just as I treasure so many people that have come into my life and shined bright on me. So I love differently, and I choose to be very different.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for spending this morning with me. And I will look forward to seeing you next week. And also, listener, I look forward to seeing you next week on the podcast. And I hope that we get to see your smiling face at the event next week. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I am super excited to hear this podcast and also to see you guys at next Wednesday's event.
Beautiful. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end. Before you move on with your day, pause and capture one thought or takeaway that stood out to you. Write it down so it doesn't get lost in the noise. And if you're ready to go deeper, come join me in my free monthly class, Conversation and Guided Writing, to help you see things differently and move forward with clarity. Save your spot, carlareeves.com/free class.